Sometimes pursuing a new idea comes with challenges that make you want to forget you even had the idea to begin with. Blockchain aims to shape the future of technology for the better, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Take it from our friend Joe, who's running his own blockchain startup.
I am Joe Roets. I am the founder, architect, CEO of Dragonchain.
With an unlimited amount of applications, Dragonchain is slinging solutions left and right. Despite a large number of roadblocks along the way, Joe and his team found ways to consistently overcome them. This is how Dragonchain came out the other side, an award-winning blockchain startup. So to start, what is Dragonchain?
If you're working for a big company or a small company, if you're dealing with friends, there are these interesting marketplaces involved that aren't measured. They're not objectively measured. You can't short somebody's attitude, right? It's not like you have a stock market there to do that with. But what we do is we essentially try to mark the activities, the events, the behaviors, and it could be some system things. It could be how users interact with the system. And then you get transparency, but you also get to define a workflow process that can essentially reward certain behaviors, complex behaviors or simple behaviors, and disincentivize others. And the more transparent that is, the more likely the people will follow that path through, but it's very much their choice. So it's not like it's tyrannical. It's a very interesting thing because it's like, oh, I'm free to follow your workflow and I get more points or get more currency in the system. Prior to this technology, you could make some cases where you might be able to do this, but not in an objective, simple, measurable way. To prove events in time, that's what Dragonchain does, is it decentralizes the proof itself. And we can show that even with an extremely conservative measure, we're talking about billions of dollars worth of energy every quarter, every 3 months that gets applied to that. So typically data today doesn't matter as much as data, time ago. So it becomes a really interesting thing that things like an attack on your system or anything that happens, you can roll back the clock and look at the state of things at that point in time and prove that this literally is what it was, that you don't have any errant data, you don't have any mistakes.
What are some of the roadblocks you've had to deal with?
There's so much drama. I could give you story after story, that very interesting stuff, or people attacking us, people trying to work their way into our system, people stealing emails, people hacking our printers to try to get any info they can. Crazy stuff. FBI reports, all types of stuff. So anyway, all of that stuff, the hurdles are probably the noise, because if you're a legitimate company doing legitimate, real things, things that real people could actually use, it is hard to get it out, because you're cutting through, this NFT sale raised $70 million, or so. And then when you go talk to prospects that literally could use what we're building, sometimes all they know about is the tokenization and finance side, and they're thinking, well, we don't need blockchain. We spent years trying to figure out how to cut through, and in particular with sales prospects, but even in the general media, how do you cut through the noise to deliver the actual thing that we need people to know about? And that's one of the big hurdles. And the other is that it's a very abstract, very misunderstood, because in my opinion, I think the industry itself is still operating at such a small level of its potential.
Dragonchain may have had to deal with some demanding obstacles, but that hasn't stopped them in the slightest. The Bellevue Chamber of Commerce recognized Dragonchain as Eastside Small Business of the Year in 2019. On top of that, the Seattle Business Magazine named Dragonchain the gold winner of the blockchain category in the Tech Impact Awards. They used obstacles as opportunities to grow, and look where they are now. Speaking of growth, where do you see Dragonchain heading in the future?
Supply chain's a big one. IBM's trying to crack that for a long time. I think there are certain weaknesses with the approach. where they try to get standards in place first, and it's not as flexible. And yet, there are massive opportunities because, for food safety, it's a huge one where you can more effectively and more quickly identify the source of an issue and say, okay, we know that we had this in this city. We know they had this batch. We can trace it all the way back and figure out, is it something at the farm? Is it something in transport, whatever else? And you can very quickly identify, both for pulling stuff off the shelves, but also for tracing where the mistake happened. How do you prevent it from happening again? How do you tie it to somebody who is responsible for that mistake not having happened? That's just one. There's a lot you could do with media, Facebook, Twitter, so on, that they have tons and tons of problems. And we started looking at this years ago, and we have a system it's operational today, and it's in the very early days, but it effectively builds prediction markets around content. Everything's a market, in my opinion, and I think it's better, in my opinion, than AI and machine learning, because it's easier to get humans to figure out a problem than it is to try to tune an algorithm. Because if you tune an algorithm, you end up getting some of the angles of the humans involved. It's an interesting thing.
What are some exciting projects you're working on?
There's one that we're working on right now with gaming that is remarkable. That, we're thinking it's going to come out spring or summer. That is all about using the fundamentals of blockchain to improve the gaming system itself in ways that people aren't thinking about at all. And right now, everybody that's working on it is just beside themselves. We can't spend enough time trying to get everything defined and designed, and everything is pretty cool. And they're far-reaching systems that have to do with solving the measurement of environmental metrics, right? On how a manufacturing process, is it green? Is it not green? How do they report it? Things like that. We're working on a couple really cool projects there that are far-reaching, and they tie into supply chain, they tie into manufacturing, everything else. And so we're rolling all that out. Super exciting.
Finally, can you offer some advice for aspiring entrepreneurs?
I would say don't be dogmatic. The solution is the solution. Proof in pudding. You need to make something that works. That very often is not going to be the dogmatic approach. It's going to be the approach that is unique, that therefore might be harder to get further, but that's the real value. Look at actual business problems. Look at unique solutions, especially solutions that aren't out there. That's the fun stuff, building new things. There are always unique ways to do that. With software, we can do anything. So, what should we do, right?